Okay, so if you're not building your own agentic OS yet, you're already falling behind. And an agentic OS, that's just a fancy way of saying a set of AI systems that quietly run your actual work for you. Your admin, your content, your reporting, all that busy work, it gets handled while you're off doing something else. Now, here's the thing. It has got nothing to do with being technical at all. And it's not a Jarvis either, that voice-controlled Iron Man assistant out of the movies that everyone is showing off on social media. A Jarvis-like interface is a nice extra if you want one, but you don't need it. Yours doesn't have to talk or take voice commands or any of that. What actually matters is something much more boring and a lot more powerful. So let me just show you what I mean. I got several loops running right now, which you can see under routines here, and they're happening automatically. It's running the social media for my business, writing my posts, my threads, my carousels, and pushing them straight out to my socials through a tool it's plugged into. It's also finding leads, connecting with them, offering my services, and much more, sending connects on LinkedIn, reaching out to them, creating weekly reports, aligning my systems towards my goals. I have my content system and entire reels going through this pipeline, growing my Instagram and other socials. So these loops can be used to publish social media posts to accounts of mine. You can plug Claude Code into whatever tools you already use. You can engineer these kind of loops that run autonomously to run your entire operations to increase your personal productivity or run your company's SOPs. And here, look, this is my system that publishes to my socials, growing my Instagram and socials, your faceless reels, carousels, thread posts. Everything is prepared and sent to my socials. Once I teach Claude Code how to do these things at least once, then I can put them into repeatable loops and engineer these loops so that they can work autonomously without much of my input. So over the next half hour or so, I'm going to show you the whole thing, what an agentic OS actually is, the four parts that every single one is built out of. And the simplest way to picture it is a little company that runs itself. So first, there's the workforce. That's your skills and loops, and that's the part that does the actual work for you. And then there's memory. That's what makes it know your business. Instead of just answering questions like some chatbot, there is a control room, the dashboards. That's how you keep an eye on everything the company is doing. So you catch the problems first, and it's all still moving towards your goals. And fourth, the sharing of it, taking what you built for yourself and setting it up for other people in your team, and even making it such that you can sell it to other people and make money using AI. Those four together, and you have got a company that runs itself without you, and also potentially that you can sell to others. And I'll show you how to build each part, even if you've never written a single line of code. In fact, you don't need to know coding at all. People pulling ahead right now, they're not writing better prompts. They usually are writing a system that runs itself and it does the work instead of them babysitting every step. And that's what you're going to learn how to build. So by the end of this, you're going to get the whole thing, an agentic OS, and how to build one your own. In this system, you're the owner, the board, not the operator. You decide what it does and you check the work. Each part builds the one before it, so you don't need to do all four from day one. Okay, so let's talk about why you would even want an agentic OS in the first place. Really, it comes down to leverage. One person shipping more than a whole team, getting an edge, even starting a new business without hiring anyone. Because whatever you're not good at, the AI just fills in. I'm a developer, so the marketing, the design, the writing, all those gaps get covered. That's why I do this. You don't need a co founder for every skill you're missing. Now, when most people picture one of these, they picture the wrong part. They picture the dashboard, the screens, the buttons, the talking Jarvis assistant, all the stuff that you can't do from a normal chat window. Some people look at that and think, I want one of those. And other people look at it and think it's all show, there's nothing real underneath. But they're both looking at the same shop window because the real value was never the dashboard, and it was never the Jarvis. It is the machinery behind it, the plain boring systems that are actually doing the work. Now let me put this another way. The first time you ever used Claude Code, you hire yourself one employee, just one. An employee you talk to in plain English. And an agentic OS, well, that's when you grow that one employee into a whole company. So now you've got a workforce, so the actual jobs get done. You got a memory, so it knows your business. You go to the control room so you can see all of that in one place, and a way to how to package it and hand over the whole thing to other people in your team or just to sell to others. If you are going that way, that will put you ahead of most people. All of it's running without you standing over it. So you're not the operator anymore. You're more like the owner. You're the board of directors. You decide what the business should do and the company goes off and does it. You check the work, you steer it a bit, but you're not the one grinding through it and you're not paying any salaries. So one person on their own can run what used to take the whole team. So maybe you just want to run your own thing lean without hiring anyone, or maybe you just want to set this up for other businesses and get paid for it. And there's this second layer to this. You're not just hiring employees, you're cloning yourself. Because the model already brings the raw intelligence, it is trained on vast amounts of training data, already knows a lot about a lot of things. Like a consultant you just brought in, but a consultant still has to ask you, what's your way? What's your brand? How do you like things done? And that part, your way, and that's the bit you write down your preferences, your standards, the way you like things done. And then an agent reads all that the same way a new hire reads the operating manual, and it does the work the way you would have done it. So the system can actually run itself. Take my content leaderboard. Every morning, before I even sit down, an agent has already gone out, scanned what's taking off in my space, and updated a leaderboard of the videos worth paying attention to. So I open it and I already know what to make next. I didn't do any of this manually. There's a playbook behind it, what to look for, how to score it, how I like it laid out, and the agent just follows that. The same way a new hire follows your process. And that's the whole idea. Something that runs itself and you're only checking in on it. Okay, so the workforce, that's your skills and loops. This is the part that does your actual work. And this part, along with the memory right after it, is about 90% of the whole thing. So let's slow down and do this one properly. So first, a skill. What actually is it? A skill is just a saved way of doing a job. Written in plain English, that's it. You write down how a task gets done once, and now your AI employee just knows how to do it every time and the way you want it done. So think of it like hiring an employee and handing them a skill. So you can't write copy, you install a copywriting skill, and now you got an agent that writes copy. I'm a developer, not a designer, so I install a design skill, and design's covered. Someone non-technical installs engineering skills. Every skill you add is another capability, another employee who knows a job you don't, except it's actually bigger than that. Because you're also borrowing the model's trained intelligence, its own research, its ability to go look things up, all this background knowledge you don't have yourself. So it's like a trained assistant that also just happens to know things that you don't. So how do you write these skills? Start with a quick audit. Just look at your week. You're doing the same handful of jobs over and over again. So why aren't those job skills yet? You take what you already do, you write it down, you turn that into a skill, and then you loop it. And looping just means that it runs itself from then on a schedule or until a goal is met. Ultimately, you end up with different loops running different parts of the business. A content loop, a review loop, one that goes and finds you leads, little departments each doing their own job. And there's two ways to run that audit. The first way is just manual. You already know the steps, so you explain them out loud in plain English and bundle that into a skill. Or just do the job once manually in a Claude Code session. Once you have everything done up to your preferences and standards, at the end of it, prompt Claude to turn that process into a skill. You're turning your process into a skill. You just do the job the normal way with a bit of back and forth to get it right. Then at the end of the session, you say, turn this into a skill. And it writes up everything you just did. So the next time it runs on its own. There is also a skill creator skill from Anthropic. Its whole job is to write other skills. So make use of that as well. The second way, you let Claude Code look at your own history for you. There's a built-in for it, a slash command called insights. You type /insights. It goes back through all your sessions and hands you a report. What you spend your time on, how you actually work, what's working, what's hindering you, and where things keep going wrong. And it doesn't just describe you what you've been working on. It always tells what to build, how to optimize the system, the exact skills to create, the Claude MD additions that you have to make, suggest new ways to use Claude Code, how to make the whole system more effective, the rules worth adding, and it is pulling out patterns I hadn't even clocked. You could sit back and read back through your sessions by hand. This is much more effective than that. Just use the slash command. Based on this, create skills. So use the slash command for a starting point. Now, once you have found a job worth saving, you don't even have to write the skill by hand. There's actually, as I mentioned before, a skill just to create skills whose whole job is writing other skills. It's called Skill Creator. It's an official skill from Anthropic itself, and it works best when you've done the job yourself at least once. So you know what good looks like. Then it does the writing for you. Just prompt to use the skill creator skill itself to create the new skills. So for me, that's things like weekly review, trend scan for finding outlier content, the way I write my content, jobs I used to just grind through by hand. And now they are just skills my agent employees run. Okay, so now you got a skill. Next step, you loop it. So you take a job you keep doing and you put it on a schedule. You name it, you tell it which skill to run, and you set when. These scheduled jobs are called routines. And there's 3 flavors of them. So there's a cloud routine that runs on Anthropic servers. So your laptop can be shut and it still fires, which is what you create when you select the cloud option. And then there's a desktop one that just runs on your own machine, which is a local option. So your computer has to be awake for it. And then there's an in-session loop using the /loop command. You give an interval and a prompt. When issued within the same session, at those intervals, the prompt will be injected back into the session, which is for when you're actually sitting here working at your laptop. Now, let's talk about the piece that separates a real system from a chatbot that just answers your questions. As I was just saying, this is loop engineering, and the cleanest way to get it is this: agent versus chatbot. So a chatbot, it reads what you say and it responds. That's the whole loop. You, it. Now, an agent can do a little bit more. It can take actions on your machine, use tools, go do things. But on its own, you're still going back and forth with it, message by message, same as the chatbot. What actually changes that is giving it 3 things: task, some context, and an exit condition. And this is important because it means the thing just keeps working until the job is done, not until it's typed one reply back at you. Now, Claude Code itself is what people call a harness. That's just the engine that runs a model as an agent, gives it tools, memory, and the ability to keep going on its own. Claude Code has actual commands for exactly this, for loop engineering. So let's go through them. So there's /goal. It is a / command that you type into a Claude Code session. You give it a finish line, a condition, and then after every turn, a fast little model just checks quietly, are we there yet? And if the answer is no, it keeps going. Same session, no nudge from you. And when the condition is finally met, it stops. And for some reason, if your model makes a mistake and decides it's time to stop, this goal will fire and will make for that session impossible to stop without reaching the exit condition. And then there is the loop command, /loop, which we just saw, which reruns something on a timer, say every few minutes. In the same session, it injects the prompt back into the same session. And then we also saw routines, which are the scheduled ones that we just talked about. And then underneath all of it, there's auto memory and compact, which is how it remembers and tidies up what it learned. One crucial element to this is the ability for it to dream. This is by default enabled on Cloud managed agents, but when you're operating on your computer, you probably need to create something like a dream skill, which can, every now and then, every few hours, or even every day, go to your conversation history, learn from your conversations, your frustrations, the repeated failures from the model, all of that. It learns about that and updates the persistent memory, whether it is your auto memory or your files. So the next one carries forward instead of starting cold. And you can climb this like a ladder. So the bottom rung is just a manual loop. That's you doing the job yourself. The next rung up is a written loop. That's a skill. Though on its own, a skill doesn't run yet, you've written the job down, something still has to kick it off. The next is a self-running loop. That's a routine. Give the skill a goal to hit, put it on a schedule, and now it goes on its own. And you've got multiple loops right at the top to run the system. And that's what it looks like when the thing genuinely runs itself. And the whole point of the ladder is you climb it once. The first time you do the job by hand, and the last time you'll ever do it by hand, that's when you turn it into a skill. Then you wrap that skill in a routine, and now it's just off your plate for good. You're just checking in on it every now and then. You're not doing the job anymore. So you got to start thinking in terms of loop engineering, how these loops can be efficiently constructed so the agents are triggered at the right times, and so that the work happens even when you're sleeping. Now, one more thing about the loops and Claude Code as a harness. Because your system isn't sealed inside your own files, you have data in different systems. It plugs into other tools and services you use through connectors. So the work it does can actually reach out into the world, publish a post, send a message, kick something off in another app, whatever you have connected it to. And then you just loop it, run it on a schedule. So that content that you just saw publishing itself at the start in my content loop that schedules all my content into my socials. That was a job running on a loop. And the connector is what carried out it to my socials. And here's why all this matters. Even if you never build a full OS, these skills and loops, they make every single thing you do in Claude Code better. Every one of them. So you win either way, even if you're just at the second rung of the ladder. But a workforce that forgets everything the second you close the laptop, well, that's useless. So let's give it a memory and state. Here's what that actually means. It's just what your AI actually remembers about you and your business. And here's why that matters so much. So picture the smartest employee you ever met, like genuinely brilliant. But every morning they wake up with total amnesia. No memory of your business, your clients, how you like things done. Useless. You just spend the whole day re-explaining everything. So memory is the thing that makes your system feel like it knows you. The skills are the how, the operating procedures, the best way to get job done. Those are portable. They would work in any business pretty much. The memory is a part that's specific to yours. And it's always moving. Where your goals are right now, the state of the business, and everything the system learned about you. Your takes, how you see things. So let me show you where that memory actually lives. This is my setup. In the previous section, we saw that our agent system uses different methods like para. In this section, we are diving a little bit deeper into the principles behind para and what each folder actually means. So our second brain uses a system called para plus GTD. These are the para folders neatly organized. Projects, areas, resources, and archives. The para system is by Tiago Forte. He has written in length about this method in his book, The Para Method and Building a Second Brain. So if you want deep dive, do check out his books. Every other system sorts by subject, the information you collect, projects that need doing. Most of other systems sort by subject. That's why everything you own ends up in 3 plausible different places at once. Is this not marketing note, something related to client work, or something else? Para sorts by actionability. How soon does this matter? And that's a very easy question to answer. Do you want it done now or sometime in the future? So let's start with the most actionable folder, projects. Each project is an outcome that you or your agents are committed to. What consumes our active attention day to day? The project also has a deadline. Areas, a responsibility with a standard or multiple standards that decays if ignored. For example, weekly review in my case. Every week this needs to be done. So that's an area for me, but doesn't have an end date. A project has an end date and an outcome. I have all the guidelines on weekly review, all the standards and guidelines distilled by the agents into these areas. I did not write this by hand. The more you talk to your agent, they distill this information, your instructions, etc., into the area, into the relevant folders. The outputs of weekly reviews go into an output folder. And if I want to drop in anything raw, a video or an audio file, that goes into the raw file here. If you want to know more about this kind of structure, you can look into Google Open Knowledge Format, where you have this concept of bundles. It's not super important in our context, where we are trying to create this agentic second brain. Then we have resources. A resource is a topic or an interest that may be useful in the future. A topic that keeps serving future work. In my resources folder, I have assets, attachments, thumbnails created as part of other projects, some general guidelines and knowledge that can contribute to multiple projects, my Substack pipeline, outreach pipelines, things like this. Again, it's not strictly resources from Parasystem, but it generally follows that. Everything completed, on hold, the least ones in actionability, they go to archives here. If I go to projects here, you can see all the backlog, completed, failed, monitoring, different statuses, superseded. We do have resources that went stale or no longer relevant. They're also moved to archives. Finished goals, they also go here. These are the inactive items from other 3 categories. If it doesn't fit into any of the other categories, chances are it fits into archives. Anyway, this isn't a lesson on Para. Read up on it if you want to know more. On his blog page from the Forte Labs, the company Tiago Forte runs, you have a good explanation video here, how he organizes files, and his YouTube is full of this kind of videos, so you can have a look there. But that's it in a nutshell, based on actionability. These are divided into 4 categories. The difference is that in our system, we run 6 folders. Para has 4. We added an inbox folder, a goals folder. These were borrowed from GTD. GTD, getting things done, is another methodology by David Allen. Again, you don't need to know the entire system. The Para is mainly for organizing information based on actionability, where GTD more focuses on doing it. So inbox is everything that enters into the system. That's where everything enters the system. And the agents triage it, and that end up in one of these 4 categories, and each project themselves, for example, this course itself that I am doing right now, have its own intake mechanism. So any resources that it finds useful, it will put in the raw folder. And again, the raw folder contains raw research. That is what we interact with. We don't touch anything else. We touch output sometime, but everything else is agent operated, which brings us into goals. Goal again is borrowed from GTD. GTD calls goal a horizon above areas. They have an end date similar to the end date that projects have. Well, in GTD, we don't have end dates for projects, but in Para, we do. In goals, in our version, we have an end date, a deadline. There's no strict need for this, but I like having longer goals, which doesn't fit into shorter term goals and outcomes that I'm committed to, which are executed via the project system. These are more sort of bigger goals, longer goals, like a quarterly goal. Something like grow my YouTube to 1,000 subscribers doesn't really fit as a project, because projects are short-lived. Inbox captures your random thoughts, ideas, and standards to maintain. Everything enters through inbox, gets emptied by triage, and goes into one of these 4 categories. And you may have noticed this numbering in front of these folders. They force the sort order because the file browser sorts by name. Inbox at the top, then goals, projects, areas, resources, and archives all fall in line in the Para order. You don't have to use them if you don't want to. I like having them in order. I can use sort by file name in Obsidian. Let's get into these 4 categories a little bit more. Each area has a task base as well. So these are bases. These work pretty much like Notion databases. You can add filters, hide and show different properties, create new views, apply sorting, create multiple views and layouts, so on and so forth. So that is Obsidian feature called bases. It's a core plugin built into Obsidian. And I can see which tasks are the agent ready ones, which means it's prioritized. And if I sort by priority, 0 means it wasn't prioritized by the COO skill or the routines that prioritize current work. So it's a safeguard that agents will only pick up priority 1 items first and then move on to the next priority. So you don't want to be working on irrelevant things that aren't prioritized. That's the idea of having 0, not to work on things that haven't gone through a prioritization pass at all, and also to start working at the top of the list. So these are the things that the agents have handed back to me. If I set the owner filter to hash, waiting on hash, this is me. You can see all the tasks. I have to do them. It's blocked on me. And if I click on a task here, it is ready to go. It has added all the notes and everything, why this needs to be done. It has all the citations and the background recorded as well. It has researched the vault and prepped the task for me, and it will also do any additional research it needs to do online. And the instructions, how to do this, all that is added for me, ready to go. How this all gets done, which we'll discuss the mechanism of it in the next module. When I'm done, all I have to do is change the status to open and assign it back to the agent, and it gets picked up. Which brings us into goals. And here's why it matters more with an agent than without one. A standard written down is a thing that an agent can evaluate against. It can check the work, record the failures, and take corrective action on its own. That's how we have borrowed the Para method, the GTD method. These things really fit well with the agentic second brain that acts. I said the goal is what stops the project list from becoming a list of things that he felt like doing. Just drop a goal here and the agents will figure out how to achieve it. And that's how I use goals. So the goals help in prioritizing the projects. If you say you have a goal of achieving X within the next week, the agents will be able to allocate and prioritize projects accordingly and distribute attention. This is why I borrowed the idea of goals from GTD into this system. I don't usually handwrite a goal here. I mostly use inbox. Drop everything in the inbox folder here, and I set the goal through the inbox rather than handwriting it. the agents will then pick up. That gets picked up on demand or when the next weekly review happens and converted into a proper goal. There's a skill I will introduce you to, the Chief Operating Officer, the COO skill in the agentic module of this course, which will be in the classroom, which will align everything, the areas, the projects, all of it. These goals also inform the agents. Have a look at these goals, see if it needs creating new projects to achieve the goal, and then it creates shorter term goals, which are projects, and creates tasks underneath that, and any areas that it needs to track over a period of time. And that happens based on the standards you have already set. For me, I don't like to work on many things at once. Well, I usually do. That's my one of the problems that I struggle with. But it's not good for me. I know that. So I have a standard of focusing on a few things a week. So if it's not super urgent or high priority, these agents will defer that. And those standards had been captured by the agents into my areas under agents and autonomy and system. If you're able to see the planning and priorities, memory and wiki, how I need all this to be done, they learn from the conversation. So if it's not super high priority or urgent, the agents will defer it to be picked up later. And in that pass, if the agents do pick up to create projects, task gets created underneath that same pass. Agents also do a standard of 80-20 analysis to keep only the 20 most impactful things that will move the project. During prioritization, it will drop certain tasks if the tasks aren't relevant anymore. Now, both projects and goals, they have deadlines and a by when date. So that metrics can be compared against them to mark whether the goal or the campaign or the project was a success or a failure, and how to pivot if a pivoting is needed. And the instructions for how to pivot can also be stored as standards into areas. The areas become the guiding material. As an example, look at the acquisition loop area here. This was a project before. When I wanted to try out social media sales, social selling, it ran for a week, and after the run, when the project got archived, all of the learnings that were in the projects, they were captured back into the system. What needs to be done going forward under what the runs taught. And it found some viral formats, and that goes into the output folder as a library. So it consults this from now on whenever the acquisition loop runs again. This is what people were talking about loop engineering a couple of weeks ago. The agents themselves can write these loops, run something, identify a gap in the system, run some experiments. So if I add a goal, I want to do X by the end of this quarter, something like this, the agents can go and stand up the areas and projects for it, execute autonomously and assign me the task, and at the end of it, gather all the learnings, see if it is worth keep doing it and keep doing it. So that's your first move. Put everything in your inbox folder, your aspirations, what are the musts, your preferences, what's the wish list, what are some maybes, put them in your inbox after downloading fuller setup. That's where you start. And the agents will categorize this. You can get the fuller setup in the classroom, a cut of my own system in the fuller setup module, which will be dropping right now along with this module. So go back to the classroom and grab it. It's not the agent starter kit, it is a fuller setup. Also, if you want the resources attached with this course is in my school community. Check it out there if you're watching this on YouTube. So that concludes this one. Next up is to actually make it agentic and explain you how all this works. I'll catch you there. In the meantime, feel free to play around with the agentic setup. In the next module, we will discuss about the specifics of how the system works in an agentic fashion when hooked into a harness like Claude Code. By the way, all the links are in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. And check out my community. You have different setups for using this Agent OS, creating faceless reels to grow your own Instagram, building and selling AI websites, that course over there using this agent setup. And also new modules dropping here. You can start with the agent starter kit here. Complete Claude Code course that gets updated in the context of agentic autonomous setups. I also drop new findings, the things that I learn on the daily often here. So you'll be the first ones to get these. And you'll also have access to me to ask questions. I'm also planning to do live workshops So for the founding members, you can lock in the early price, and I'll see you in the next one.